Welcome back to Ozarks Tonight. We are continuing our conversation, overall questions about paying for health care. We've already solved the problem. We shouldn't talk about health care as a right. I think Nick is right in this case. The right needs to be just you doing your own thing and that's it. But Amy's point, yeah, but you also don't need the system we have now necessarily, where you have folks who are dying unnecessarily. Then Nick comes back, just this is the blow-by-blow of the last segment, folks, and says, well, but wait a minute, you're not necessarily going to have great health care, healthier people just because you have money spent on it. So where can we sort of thread this needle? Because we've got about $800 billion a year now spent on Medicare alone.
Well, and I think another equal footing or premise that we need to agree upon is that there is no system in which everybody is going to be treated at a cost that is comfortable for them and get a treatment that turns out the way that they want it to. It's just no matter what.
We know worldwide there is not a perfect system that we can pop right into ours and say this is going to fix it all.
Yes,
correct.
And so
absolutely.
so what happens, and the reason that seems obvious, but what'll happen is if I'm somebody in the private, I support the private sector, and somebody supports more of a government run, I point out where theirs fails, they point out where mine fails, and so, oh, well, mutual destruction, right? No, so we need to agree that there's no one system that is absolutely perfect. So it's which one is going to be the best, which one is going to overall provide the best care possible for people. And when you look at it structurally, part of the problem we do have today is you have a third party paying, whether it's insurance companies or whether it's government using taxpayer dollars. In all of that mess, what I see is at least as limited because of all the rules and regulations in place, it is when it comes to choosing insurance. If you have a system, which people do have insurers privately as third party, there are at least other ones that are out there. Now, we do need to make it easier for people to jump from one to the other. One of the problems that occurs when government is the decider, there is nowhere else to go. If you get denied under Medicaid or Medicare, well, unless you go get private insurance somewhere, you're at a bit of a dead end. So
but the private insurers are limited in terms of their numbers.
Right, absolutely, it's true.
And they're public companies. And so
and there are mandates on them as well.
Right, but should this for-profit approach, which basically says we're doing what we can for the shareholders, not necessarily the policyholders, be the way this goes to keep private insurance and to argue on its behalf? Because I get the idea, if it's the government, you have no place else to go when the guillotine comes down, right, for lack of a better visual. But can we get away from making private insurers these kind of public companies? Maybe like a non-profit approach might be a better way to go, and has sort of private insurance as a mutual type company as opposed to what you have now in a lot of cases?
So, I mean, that's a really good point. And when we look at structurally, what is the point of health insurance and health care? When we talk about the economy and the capacity for us as a nation, we're even at a critical point where it's becoming a risk due to obesity and many other chronic conditions, to where our workforce, is decreasing, not just based on age, but also by work capacity, even affecting our military. So when we talk about the access to health and how the importance it should be there, that should be primary, not the fact that I'm an investor and the shareholders come first. And so some of the things that are effective is this quasi-governmental relationship that does hold it more in the idea of the nonprofit. There's other business models that aren't specifically nonprofit but are very similar to that, to where there's no longer that responsibility to the shareholders, but we have a responsibility to the individuals we're serving, and we have a responsibility to look at what is best for mankind in a whole. And so that's something where, as a very capitalist society, it's very uncomfortable for us to be talking about that and who and how has the right.
But it's got to be more.
And now it comes back to who has the right, and it's like.
But it's more comfortable than talking about government doing everything, right?
This is part of the problem that we have. I mean, because we talk about shareholders, well, a lot of that are retirees. Right. That's where their retirement is.
Pensioners, yeah.
Right. Correct. So we have created this Rube Goldberg way of dealing with health care. And what happens is you have, the push button to start, the light bulb is step 100, and there's 99 things in between. And so what we're sitting here talking about is, well, what if we change this little sprocket here, or what if we change this little gadget over here? And while that might make the slightest bit of a difference, ultimately the whole machinery is a mess with insurance and government, and instead of the relationship that people have with the people or the companies that sell cell phones or televisions or most other things that don't have government involvement, as time goes on, they come down in price. In terms of, it's not really medicine, but something that isn't covered by insurance or guaranteed as a so-called right is plastic surgery. That has become so much more affordable over time. LASIK surgery has also become more affordable over time. Does that mean everyone can afford it? No, but we do see a trend that we say we want when it comes to medicine. And these arbitrary rules that are sort of one size fits all with the hope that it's going to be good for everyone just causes new little wheels and sprockets to be put in this Rube Goldberg system.
You're adding another cog.
Yes, exactly. So I'm like, go back to the good old days where the doctor came to your house.
We are seeing that, and that's what's great.
That's true.
There is a trend back into this idea of, my daughter is like, hey, I haven't been to the doctor for 2 years. I said, okay, is something wrong? She says, well, no, but all my friends go like every 6 months. Aren't I supposed to go to the doctor? And it was, this idea of like, we're even training people consumption when it's not necessary. So as you mentioned, we could talk on this in so many ways of how we consume it, how we educate, how there's this expectation that I'm supposed to go. Other than getting blood work every year or sometimes every 5 years, there isn't a reason to go with symptoms.
And think if we dealt with car insurance like we do health insurance. What is vehicle insurance there for? It isn't to get an oil change. It's not to check the pressure on our tires. It's not to get routine maintenance. It is for something catastrophic. And because of that reason, we don't go in willy-nilly and have these things done that aren't necessarily done.
We're a victim of our own technology.
Yes.
I mean, you talk about the good old days, and I think the good old days could be good because back then, you said at the beginning of that segment, you just died. I mean, that ear infection.
Some palatable care.
Well, that's the thing. The ear infection killed you. I mean, pre-penicillin. And now it's going to be a question going forward, in addition to all the other points you both bring up of, well, now there's this new pill. There's this new operation.
Well, and I got a DNA test that says I might be most likely to have this, so now I want all these tests done when the likeliness of it genetically is less than 30% that it's going to happen.
But if it just saves one life, if it just saves one life.
It gives you something to do.
Hey, as long as it's my life.
Well, we haven't solved anything in regard to this, folks, but at least we've given us some things to think about, so we appreciate you being here, talking to Amy Blanchett and Nick Reed tonight. We'll be back after this.